straight in. Bourne on the run. Making this film was tempo, I thought. This is the third instalment of the Bourne trilogy. And to set the tempo high from the off. Because ultimately chase movies. And I wanted this film to be all about Bourne getting answers, getting towards the end of his journey, the chase reaching its furious crescendo. And so from the first frame, I wanted the tempo to be high. On the run in Moscow, and that first decisions actually that was made on the film was to start it in Moscow and to start the film earlier than where Bourne Supremacy had ended. That was choice, Tony Gilroy's choice actually, the screenwriter. And I think that choice comes down to the fact is looking for answers. And when you look at the end of Bourne Supremacy, you realize that he ends up in New York, having just left Moscow, and you wonder why he went to New York. What happened between his leaving Moscow and arriving in New York? Why did he come to New York? What happened in the interim? And that's what Bourne Ultimatum is all about. As with any Bourne film is that exists in the story of Bourne being chased, but you have the story of what happened to Bourne in his hidden past in the flashbacks. I wanted to give them a strong contemporary edge. I think that's most exciting about the Bourne franchise is that it's about a real man in a strong contemporary world with stories that feel like they're ripped out of tomorrow's headlines. And it seemed to me appropriate to fill Bourne's dreams, his nightmares, the fragments of his past that are visible to him with images that shock and disturb and feel like they're from today. It was the tape that Bourne sent to Pam Landy at the end of Bourne Supremacy. And one of the storytelling problems that you have in a Bourne film, particularly in this film, is to create a film that exists for an audience and will be explicable and understandable for an audience that's coming to only Bourne Ultimatum for the first time, and yet feels satisfying to an audience that has followed the trilogy from Bourne Identity through Bourne Supremacy and onwards. And a lot of discussion, particularly in the editing room, which is essentially backstory with maximum economy, and also establish, of course, the character of Landy, who's very, very important in the Bourne trilogy, obviously, as the character who pursues Bourne but also comes to understand what his real agenda is, and that's what this scene's all about.
Just looking for some
to play the part of CIA director Kramer, an actor and a very, very good foil, I think, for Joan Allen. It's often said that the hero is only as good as the character ranged against him. Important that all the parts in a Bourne film fiction. A young reporter, a British reporter, Simon Ross, played by Considine, meeting in a Turing cafe. Meeting to remind us, it certainly reminded me of the great 1970s movies, particularly All the President's Men and Deep Throat in the underground car park. I wanted it to have those echoes but be a story for today. This reporter who's on the hunt for Jason Bourne in front of a source. What would he say? What drives the story of Bourne Ultimatum? Another character, Martin, brother. His existence actually in Bourne Identity. It's assumed that know him, Bourne, and and that maybe Marie, his sister, had been in contact at some point. And it was a platform for some emotionality for Bourne. In the memory of Marie, understand the character of Bourne is made by his circumstances rather than in Bourne. Scene to the final scene in Supremacy when Bourne meets the young girl Irina, but again I thought that was helpful, seeing an audience that has followed the trilogy through Identity and Supremacy, that they'll reclaim the Bourne from the end of Supremacy and take him forward into Bourne Ultimatum. And for that audience that hadn't seen Supremacy, the scene would sit as a very important indicator of Bourne's emotional state. Story with forward momentum in an action-adventure thriller is one of the most difficult things, I think, how you get the story going. And I would say in this film, probably more time was spent in the cutting room, myself, Chris, trying to get this film working swiftly, but yet audience to gather the pieces that they need, meet the characters that they need to know. Hard to get that balance right. If you spend too much time setting things up, your audience never forgive you because they never quite at high tempo. Feel slightly hampered by that. But if you go too quickly, then it won't have absorbed what you need them to absorb, moving forward towards the climax.
Sir.
First time Noah Vosen, played brilliantly by David Strathairn, I think. I've long admired, obviously, in particularly films. Thinking about how to replace Brian Cox, who obviously died at the end of Supremacy, an actor with and the ability to frame a new kind of bad guy, an intelligent master, someone who could play chess with Bourne. Vosen is. Vosen at the heart of the kind of modern technological CIA, full panoply of surveillance techniques, in this case, which is an identifying program. Seemed to me to express all our worst paranoid fantasies about what goes on in secret in our name in these organizations. Built up the bad guy nicely. Our story, I think at this point, we always felt as we were cutting it, this is really the moment when the story starts to bite, when you realise that Bourne is after Ross, and so is Vosen. But they have two very, very different agendas, obviously. Flashback scene for the mystery that Bourne is going to have to uncover about his past, and already you can see in that flashback that it's to be about what happened first. Joined the program. Will you commit to the program is the signpost. What is it that happened in the program? How did Jason Bourne become Jason Bourne? What is the secret in Bourne's mind as he powers through the countryside towards his meeting with Simon Ross? Whatever secret is, we know from that flashback that it's cost him the life of Marie. Designed Bourne Ultimatum rightly to give the harbour a more high-tech look. In Bourne Identity was tucked away in a basement of the CIA. In Bourne Supremacy was an open-windowed office 10 up above Berlin. On for the hub in Ultimatum was that it be in New York, and as it were a technical upgrade, capable of fielding all the vast array of surveillance equipment that Noah Vosen has at his fingertips. The whole Toulouse sequence works, I think, because it picked one man, Jason Bourne, who...
Other part coming soon.